As the deep south freezes in preparation for a freeze, I come to you with some stories of these. I don't know. It wasn't a good rhyme, but welcome to RickCast. I am the aforementioned Rick, and in a sea of vapid and pompous podcasts, well, you're just watching another one. So thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Whether you're on the X Machine, whether you're on Rumble, whether you are on YouTube. If you are on Rumble or YouTube, like and subscribe and hit the share and the notification bell so you will know whenever this amazing show hits the ground running. If you are on the X Machine, hit that follow button on this account, retweet for a larger sample size so more people can understand how amazing of a program is happening right now. Great. There was not a lot of pickings. There's obviously the story of the LA fire crisis. We're going to tackle that one. The story of mismanagement and how liberals will let a city crumble, a once great city, right? The city of the angels crumble away under the heels of DEI and tolerance. Then we're going to shift back to Washington, D.C. We got sorry about that. We got two stories out of D.C. Well, I shouldn't have had dinner beforehand. We got two stories coming out of D.C. The Laken Riley Act has moved on. And John, Senator John Fetterman, or as I like to call him, Federlurch, was instrumental in the pushing of this bill, and he is being very he's letting off flowers. He's letting off the olive branch to the right. You had Scott Pressler go and meet with him and be like, "Oh, come become MAGA and all this other stuff." And most conservatives are like, "No, we don't need John Fetterman as another Republican. We just need to kind of clear out the own house." But that's passing through. We also have a machete that was found. A man was found with a machete going into the Capitol, and now just a couple minutes, about an hour ago, there was a suspicious vehicle or package near the Ulysses S. Grant Memorial. I think we should all take at least some. Is this an op to get people's mind off of things? Maybe. Is this something that we should be aware of, that people are getting absolutely unhinged with the impending inauguration of Donald Trump? Possibly. We'll at least explore that. That could be something in the case of that taking place there. And then finally, Trump has he already bullied Justin Trudeau into resigning, and he just absolutely embarrassed him on the way out. So now the new president of Mexico is going to try and go toe-to-toe with Trump. It's a little different. She is a female, so she's going to try and claim the moral superiority. But we'll take a look, and it's actually kind of funny to see all these world leaders who think they're so dignified, all these world leaders who think they're so important, that they're part of some bourgeoisie class because they happen to know the right people or get elected or any of these cases. They're just children. They're all just children, and they all act like children when somebody comes along and doesn't play the same game at this point. I know, Mendez. It's like, we got this, we got the fires, we got the bomb threats, we got this, we got that, we got the move which way. We're not even talking about Cybertruck anymore, or even what's going on in New Orleans. Biden was there yesterday, walking around, shuffling around, and now we have the Cybertruck person. I don't even know if we call him bomber or anything like that. He had it loaded with birdshot as well. That's one report, which changes the entire thing, because everybody said, "Oh, he wasn't trying to hurt people." Well, if you load up birdshot and trying to turn it to ball bearings, it's essentially shrapnel. That's designed to hurt people and cause more damage. But that story is so far off the rails that I don't want to peck at it every day like some people do. Yes, Mark, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's very odd that she's from Mexico City, from a very small population, yet she's not the president of Mexico. Interesting. Just something to be aware of in case you are not aware of that in the audience. And then, what was I talking? Oh yeah, the Cybertruck bomber. They're piecing this thing out one thing at a time. I don't want to chase that, because one day you'll say something and then one day you'll say, "Well, that's not the same. Now it's this." If there's some kind of report that comes out, I will spend a segment going through at least a finalized version of what the events are, and then you and I can rip it apart as much as possible. But this pecking thing that they're trying to do, and you know exactly what I know. You probably know it more than I do, that they're just playing out the clock. They're just playing out the clock until Trump gets inaugurated. Then nobody's going to care about it anymore. And then the Las Vegas Police Department, which is known for not really spilling the beans or telling the truth, can just move on with their day. But that is what we have planned for you tonight. I think it's going to be a good show. I don't know if it's going to be as long as normal. It just depends on how far we go on these topics. I don't have any hot takes because there's nothing. There's not really anything that has popped up that is worthy of a hot take. So no, we're gonna jump right into these stories, and we're gonna be talking about the fires. If the people had mortgage in California, they must be paid regardless of circumstances, and the insurance company will pay. Oh, okay. So she's jumping ahead of it, but that's okay. Let's get to the first story of the day, and that's obviously the biggest story of the day: the Los Angeles fire crisis that's taking place, because it is a crisis, where you have these wildfires that could have been started in a homeless camp. There are videos of those taking place. Could have been started by bad electrical wires. The fact is that they don't maintain their wildlife and they don't have necessary water to put these out. So it's a perfect storm for something like this. You have 5 simultaneous wildfires wreaking havoc on Los Angeles. 1,000 structures confirmed destroyed. This was earlier. This hasn't been updated in a couple hours. 2 deaths confirmed. Now, if you really want to look at something crazy, this is now the new evacuation map, according to the Los Angeles scanner. So this is all the area that has been evacuated, and that's just in Santa Monica. Now we're talking full-scale evacuations. If you've been following it on X, or if you've been going even on Facebook, or I'm sure on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, you'll see the videos of people who are trying to get out, and they're driving through these hellish scapes, these hellish areas that just look absolutely ridiculous. It looks like out of a movie, out of an apocalyptic scenario. But that's because their emergencies aren't, their emergency responses aren't prepped. They don't have enough water for the hoses right now. That's been reported. And people just didn't take it seriously. And that's because their fire chief is a diversity hire. And we are seeing how the lack of urgency on those things has led to, when I say those things, emergency readiness, the idea of evacuations, even the fact that the National Guard was only deployed recently, and all of these things taking place. And just a little while ago, Eric Daughtry was reporting that they just released another evacuation order for Santa Monica. This was an hour ago. 300,000 under evacuation. So this is going to be a major metropolitan area, like we just saw that map. That's going to this is all going to have to be rebuilt. And that's what people don't understand, is that all of this is going to have to be rebuilt. And people are already, they're already jumping to the punch, because this is the biggest part of the story. Not that the fires happen. Fires happen, man. It's a sad thing. It takes place. But the worst part is from Unusual Whale citing the New York Post. Wait, that's the wrong one. This is the right one, from Unusual Whale. State Farm, one of the biggest insurers in the state of California, canceled hundreds of homeowner policies last summer in Pacific Palisades, the same area which is now being ravaged by devastating wildfire. Is that a little too convenient? Some people are going to look at that and go, are you kidding me? Really? So the one coverage they needed was canceled last summer in that exact area. This smells like Maui. Everybody remembered the Maui story when that took place, how there was a fire. It seemed like a controlled fire. It didn't touch the houses that were supposedly important. It just burned the place out. And now those people, I don't think they still can't get back into their area. And nobody's talking to them about rebuilding. A lot of them didn't have insurance, or whatever the case may be. If they did, the insurance is not covering for whatever reason. And now that whole area is potentially going to be rebuilt. as a 15-minute city or something as an expansion for the rich and the famous and the more deserving. Same thing here. Palisades is not, but unlike Maui, Palisades was full of the hoi polloi, was full of the betters, of the people who are supposedly better than you and me. So why would the State Farm cancel the insurance on them? It's a very interesting question. And then you have this event take place. So it is absolutely crazy. Let's see. If a person runs behind on their mortgage, even if they have a repayment agreement, they will show delinquent on their credit. Northridge earthquake changed insurance payouts there. Let's see what else. A few weeks ago, her podcast talked about the very thing happening. I would guess they couldn't get insured with another company. The policy would be placed through the bank, and then that makes your payments so much higher. The thing is, if these houses and your Mark and Menendez are bringing up good points, if any of these houses are mortgaged, they're going to have the required insurance, or the bank won't back the mortgage. Anytime you get a house, anybody that's watching that has a mortgage payment, you understand that you have to get almost gap insurance. You have to get certain protections against your house because it's an asset for the bank. And so the bank the bank says, hey, there's a 300,000, 400,000, whatever, XYZ amount of house. And we can't let you just have it, because if an outlet catches fire and it burns down, guess what? We're out of house. We're out an asset. So you need to have coverage. So if a lot of these homes are under mortgages, even if State Farm left, Menendez, you're correct, they probably would have had to go, the banks would have had to have some kind of insurance they brought up, which means they could jack the prices up. Maybe that was a scheme. Or they would have to get an adjoining policy that would cover it. And so they can't, as scandalous as this headline is, it's very strange that they left. Now, nobody's saying somebody backfilled it, but if these mortgages existed, somebody would have had to back support it, backslide to take care of these loans, to make sure that the bank would be insured, unless you go with the idea that the feds are going to come in and just give the banks a bailout, right? Because the banks give everybody bailouts, but I don't think that's the case. But that is the most salacious of these headlines right now, is that State Farm canceled hundreds of these policies. Gunther Eagleman actually did ask a good question. Did they know? What probably happened is they probably got a piece of mail. How many of y'all open every piece of mail from your bank? I don't. And it probably sat there and it probably burned in the fire that was saying, hey, by the way, your insurance is changing after a certain date. You have to make sure you have coverage with somebody else. So there could be people who were notified, didn't open the mail, and then all of a sudden the whole thing goes away. So since we have an expert, let's go back into it. The bank then pays a yearly all right, hold on. Northridge earthquake nearly crushed the insurance company, so everything changed after that. The banks then pay a yearly policy up front, plus collects from the next year's policy, increased monthly payments. Those were difficult calls to make and collect on. I bet. I was in collections as well for a while. And yeah, it's not a fun time it's never a fun time of year to make collection calls, but it is what it is in that regard. You have to do it. But so people are looking, what about the mayor? What about the mayor, Karen Bass, who happened to be in Ghana? She was in Africa, making sure that she was at the inauguration of the president of Ghana. Why is she there? Because, and I talked about this with Nancy Pelosi, for some reason, our elected officials, our betters, feel that they have to go abroad. Nancy Pelosi was at the World War II battle remembrance, and people are like, oh yeah, it was what was it? It was a small country, Little Broughton or whatever. They're like, oh yeah, Nancy Pelosi. Nobody cares about the former Speaker of the House from San Francisco. Just like the people of Ghana do not care that the mayor of Los Angeles was there. I don't care if it was her cousin. You shouldn't be going there when you have major storms. I know the governor of Rhode Island, Don Cherry, got absolutely raked over the coals when he was inaugurated. It was like way back in the 2000s, the aughts. Is that what they call them? He was inaugurated as governor. Then he went to Florida for a week because it was like January, and obviously nothing happened. There was a huge snowstorm. Couldn't get back to the state, and there was a huge power battle, a huge vacuum that had to be filled. He got raked over the coals for that. Why are these mayors doing this? Oh yeah, the LA mayor also cut the fire department budget by $17 million months before the wildfires, because I'm sure that money could have gone somewhere else to, like, basket weaving or to electric cars or to any of these other stupid things. But when she came back, people demanded answers from her. Hey, like, you need to answer for this stuff. And of course, she acted in a typical Democratic manner.
For being absent while their homes were burning? Do you regret cutting the fire department budget by millions of dollars, Madam Mayor? Have you nothing to say today?
She's a public servant. And this idea that these public servants who live lavish lives, even your local mayor lives better than most of the people in the town that she's supposed to represent. These people live these lavish lives, and then they bungle the bag when it's time for them to do a measly amount of service to the people they supposedly represent. And then when it comes time to answer for said crime, they all clam up and they feel like you don't deserve an answer, that you don't deserve to know what her thinking was when she cut the budget, or you deserve to understand why she felt the need to go to Ghana or wherever in Africa to go to the inauguration of a president of a place that she has no authority or whatever there. And then they have the sad face.
Have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today? Elon Musk says that you're utterly incompetent. Are you considering your position?
Ma'am, you need to answer these questions. You need to answer these questions. And this idea, this is why you have comms. This is why you have a spokesman. This is why you have a crisis management person. This is why you have all of these people. One of the few classes that I really enjoyed when I was getting my master's in Homeland Security at Penn State was crisis management, and how there are crisis management in regards to responding to a disaster or terrorist attack, whatever the case may be. The primary rule was get out in front of the news, get in front of the news cycle, and answer the people directly. Let them know what's going on, reassure your people, and give them a sense of confidence. Does this it's a new camera angle, so I'm trying to figure it out. Is this lady over here inspiring confidence? No, she looks like she's a sad panda today.
Madam Mayor, have you absolutely nothing to say to the citizens today who are dealing with this disaster?
The people that don't have a home. You're going to go home to your house. You're going to go home and be taken care of. You're going to have AC, heat, running water. What about the hundreds of thousands of people, the 300,000 people that are under evacuation? Or what about them? What are they? How are you going to inspire them? Deer in the headlights.
No apology for them? Do you think you should have been visiting Ghana while this was unfolding
I was right.
back home?
She can't even open a door right. I don't know how these people get elected. And of course, they have these interns that make $10 an hour be their bodyguards and get people out the way. It doesn't even have to be something crazy. Let's say, under a different circumstance, they hired me as their crisis response PR person, right? Why did the governor at the time, the mayor at the time, took a look at the budget and thought that the resources allocated would be better? The 17 million would be allocated to a better place. Obviously, we're seeing with the devastating fires today that was a poor decision on her part, and she's going to be working as hard as she can for the citizens of this city to get this place back up and running. And the people who live in the Palisades, they have her, her full support, and her, she's going to be there for them. Easy enough. Does it mean anything? No. You take a little bit of responsibility, it goes a long way. And that's one thing that politicians will, I guess the first rule is never admit a mistake. If you do, it gives you, it doesn't even have to be huge. We looked at the budget. We hadn't had a wildfire of this severity in years. So I thought that the resources could be allocated to a different place. It's a simple enough statement that people can say, I don't agree with it, and I think you're stupid, but at least there's some kind of rationale there. And then you go to, should you have been in Ghana? Well, this time of year is pretty quiet. I know my seventh cousin is in the Ghana, government. And I just really, we're from, even if she was like, we're from there, and we thought it'd be a good place to be during the holiday season. Just something. Your constituents demand answers. And the longer you keep them in the dark, the greater the resentment grows to them. The greater the resentment grows. If you are upfront and you talk and you communicate with your constituents, even though this thing's an absolute disaster, a lot of them will forgive you because it'll show strength. See, this doesn't show strength right here. This is cowardness. As much as everybody didn't like Bush, he was on the thing. We're going to show him, blah, blah, blah. He had the bullhorn and everything back in 9/11. Or whatever the case may be. Pick your leader through a time period. But to completely ignore this is just pathetic. And to act like you're beneath answering
Madam
these
Mayor,
questions.
let me ask you just again, have anything to say to the citizens today as you return?
No.
It's also embarrassing that this lady can't even operate a door.
Madam Mayor, just a few words for the citizens today as you return to deal with the catastrophe.
Can you take this down?
The thing that she's actually, she had to have the door held open for her.
David, as you say, she wasn't very keen to answer any of your questions there. And,
part of the gift of
fire
society.
chiefs are
Push,
also
pull.
admitting that they just don't have enough personnel to take out the fires.
Yeah, they're fighting all sorts of challenges. They're talking about a water shortage. There are reports of fire hydrant failures. They've been unable to use firefighting aircraft for much of the day due to the smoke that is billowing ominously from the hills where the wildfires are raging. And I suppose despite that political storm, this is, of course, at its heart, a human story, because we've now 80,000 people evacuated. Tens of thousands of others are on standby to be evacuated. 2 lives have been lost in the Eaton fire, which is what's causing the consequence behind us. The city's iconic landscape almost shrouded completely by smoke, and they're really just taking it one step at a time, hoping at some stage the wind's going to change direction or to die down, and that they're going to be able to get this fire under control.
And as we talked about yesterday, there's plenty of water in California, and I don't have the Trump clip. I should have. I went back and forth on taking it when he was on Rogan, talking about how the water is stolen from different areas. And because they try to save the sea smelt or the minnow or whatever you guys came up with yesterday, they dump millions of gallons back into the sea. And they don't keep up on the fire hydrants. And they don't, they're giving away their gear to the Ukraine. And they just act like all of these things. There is no end result. There will be no repercussions to it. And so it's one of these things that when you treat these scenarios as if they're not going to happen, you end up with stuff like this. This is just one person on their drive out taking pictures of all of these things just burnt to the ground. Burnt to the ground. There are hundreds of videos like this over and over and over again. Right now, what is stopping the fire? What could? This is a great point, Mark. What is stopping? The only thing they're doing at this point is hoping and praying that this fire, that the wind stops. That's their big hope. Hey, maybe the wind will stop and we could get, maybe we can get some rain, or maybe something will happen. They're worried. They're hoping that something will deliver them from this, instead of having the ability to fight back, or at least mitigate and combat these things. So we have a fire department for, and all these other kinds of things. So it's awful. It's terrible. And it's to see this happen. And despite the fact people are like, oh, LA gets what it deserves, blah, 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 this and that, pedophiles, yada, 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 you say whatever you want. There are a lot of innocent people there. There's a lot of innocent people that have lost everything. And they are subject to incompetent leadership. And they are subject to people that truly, truly, truly do not care about them. And and unfortunately, the populace always finds out too late that they just don't care about them. And it's sad. All right, folks. So that's our first story. That's the California wildfires here on RickCast. I am the aforementioned Rick. Thank you for hanging out with me. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, hit all the fun buttons to make sure that this show continues to grow. Speaking of which, real quick shill time. This is not a paid promotion, but I'm just going to let you know that I am also an author in addition to being a vapid podcaster. You can check out my book, The Armed Catholic, The Catholic Case for Guns and Self-Defense, at Amazon.com, or my website, thearmedcatholic.com. It's $15, 75 pages. It's a great get, and I think you guys would absolutely enjoy it. Second thing I'm going to shill for myself, because, nobody else is going to do it for me. It is coming up February 8th in the Carolinas, the 15th annual Carolina Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas. I am going to be the MC of this conference. It is on Saturday, February 8th. We will have the following people: the guys from Avoiding Babylon, John Edwards. He runs the I think it's the Catholic Redneck Instagram page. John Frankman, former Green Beret, very famous for not taking the jab. And of course, Enoch, my boy Enoch, Catholic rapper. We are going to be having this amazing conference. Check it out. Catholic Men of the Carolinas.org. Catholic Men of the Carolinas.org. I'd love to see you guys there. And it's going to be a good time. And if you would like, you can get tickets to go there and win the RickCast pint. Yeah, right. Nah, dude, we're not doing mugs here. We're not doing any of that stuff. I can't stand that. I'm going to shill for my book. That's it. I would like you guys to buy the book. And I don't think I'll ever do any of that stuff. Enoch is amazing. Enoch he doesn't get enough credit for what he's doing as far as trying to change the culture. A lot of podcasters, I would even say, including myself in this space, yap about changing culture, and we don't do enough besides our podcasts. But Enoch is absolutely doing it. He puts out multiple albums a year. Every one of his songs are certified bangers. What's his latest one? I love it so much I forgot the name of it, but I have it here. Let me see what's in the library. Claim It, Live It. I've been listening to that one all day, and so I've been a huge fan of his latest. So that's great to get to see him again. I saw him last year, and I get to see him this year. So I always love seeing Enoch, and it'll be good to see the boys from Avoiding Babylon. See those guys there as well. So we'll see how that goes going forward. All right, here on RickCast. That was my shilling moment for my stuff. TheArmedCatholic.com, great book. Everybody loves it. Everybody who's read it said it is probably the greatest book on the subject of Catholics and firearms ever written. Ever. Second story we're going to. This next story that we are going to be talking about comes to us from postmillennial.com. Senator John Fetterman, or as I like to call him, Lurch, slams fellow Democrats for not supporting the Laken Riley Act. This is by the Post Millennial. We don't actually have an author, do we? No. So, Senator John Fetterman, Lurch, the only Senate Democrat co-sponsoring the Republican-led legislation that will require federal authorities to detain the criminal aliens, they're not illegal immigrants, they're criminal alien trespassers, arrested for theft-related crimes, slammed his fellow Democrats for opposing the bill. Really, what Fetterman is doing at this point is he is just filling the void left by Bernie. Bernie is on his way out, right? Within the that age bracket of Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi and Bernie, they're all over 80 or they're all over 70. They're just running out the clock at this point. And so what he's doing here is he's trying to fill that
remind everybody that we have
he's trying to we might actually let's see if we can watch it on next. While I'm talking, I'll see if I can get this actual up for you guys. But he is trying to fill the role that was left by Bernie. And so what we're seeing here is him step up and try to claim the area that nobody else has had. What do I mean? I mean that nobody else has tried to claim the populist argument that Trump has. And Bernie was that for a little bit. Bernie did have that for a little bit. He had it. He actually showed it when he came out in favor of the H-1B revoking, which I was like, oh man, I'm on the same side as Bernie Sanders. But I agree with him in that regard. Not for the same reasons, but it is what it is. So this is what Federlurch had to say when it comes to not supporting the Laken Riley Act.
Everybody that we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of migrants here illegally that have convicted of crimes. And why, I don't know why, who wants to defend that, to allow them to remain in our nation? They're that. And now if you're here illegally and you're committing crimes, and those things, I don't know why anybody thinks that it's controversial that they all need to go.
Do you think that this was one of, if not the biggest issue for this election?
Well, I think if we can't, there's 47 of us in the Senate, and if we can't pull up with 7 votes, if we can't get at least 7 out of 47, and if we can't, then that's the reason why we lost. That's one of them. That's one of why we lost, in part.
Go ahead.
Brett, if you think.
So there's this call to action, like we need to get that, and don't get it twisted. He's positioning himself, and please don't laugh at me, because everything's funny until it's true. He is positioning himself to be a front runner in 2028. Yeah, I know the guy had a stroke, and I know the guy can barely talk, and I know he only wears hoodies because he wants to try and relate, as I wear a hoodie. I'm just lazy today, and it's cold, so that's why I'm wearing a hoodie. As we brace here in the DFW area, not even DFW, in Texas, for the cold front of cold fronts. They already canceled school on Friday in Dallas. By the way, it's Wednesday when I'm telling you this. Let me skip by all that. So back into the article. So he talked about all that. We have to, we got to get 7 out of the 42, blah, 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 blah. The legislation was named after Laken Riley, the 22-year-old Augustin University nursing student who was murdered while jogging at the University of Georgia. Jose Ibarra, a criminal alien trespasser who I believe has been linked to gang activity with gang ties, who had previously been released after an arrest from stealing from a Walmart, has been charged with her murder. The bill is scheduled to come up for a Senate vote on Friday. Legislation will also allow states to sue the Department of Homeland Security for harm caused on their citizens because of illegal criminal alien trespassers. This bill needs at least 7 Democrats to join Republicans for it to be taken up by the Senate. So far, Federlurch is the only one who has stepped up to say anything, because he's trying to position himself, right? They're already fighting for position for 2028, and he's going to try and take that populist Bernie Sanders area, right? The working man. I'm from wherever, from a small town in Pennsylvania, and I wear shorts with my skinny chicken legs and a sweatshirt every day, except when certain people come to Congress, then I wear a suit for obvious reasons. But the whole idea is very funny to watch, because he tries to position himself as this individual thinker on a lot of issues, but when it comes down to it, he just votes in line like everybody else. So I don't think anybody in this audience will be fooled. But if anybody tries to bring it up, oh, well, that John Fetterman, he seems to be a moderate. He ain't no moderate. And I'll say it like that because I want you to understand. He ain't no moderate. He's just a guy who's smart enough politically. You don't get to the Senate, especially if you have a stroke. You don't get to the Senate by being stupid. Well, I don't know. Maybe Lee Greenwood will have a Bible with him like he did with Trump. But the whole point is, he's not stupid, and watch him try to get these populist topics. You can support the Laken Riley Act and still be for open borders, because then you say, well, they're not all criminals, and we support this act because we want to make sure they're blah, blah, blah. You know exactly the lines they're using. It's all tired. You can support this and still vote for the murder of babies. You can still support this and give money to Ukraine. You can dance around these issues. But if you have one or two, he'll still vote to take guns away from people. And so it's, yeah, right. Yeah, right. It is. Who knows? Who knows? Stranger things have happened, right? A Fetterman AOC ticket would be probably the greatest gift to the history of political commentators in 2028. But I don't think we're lucky enough, even in this wacky timeline, to get something like that. Let's see here. These are the 6 Democratic senators that are now on board. This was later this afternoon. Hickenlooper, Gallio, I don't know who these people are, Rosen, Kelly, and Peters. These are all people who are supposedly on board with the Laken Riley Act. It's something that it's kind of a political win for Democrats. They're smart, and everybody thinks Democrats are smart. You're foolish because they're not smart. If you think Democrats are not smart, you're foolish. They understand the way these things are laid out, and they're going to have no problem trying to set themselves up. Watch for Gavin Newsom in the next couple of months, year, to start positioning himself as a moderate, as the leader of, the largest state, even though his incompetence at this point, and he's trying to still jab at Trump while Biden is shuffling around. Oh, I had that clip and I didn't have it. Biden showed up next to him today, and the two of them were joking back and forth, and Biden's like, oh, it's a birthday or whatever. And then he shuffled off with nobody talking about it. So you have Gavin Newsom. You have John Fetterman. Believe me, Fetterman's putting his sweater in the ring. AOC, I know people don't think she's going to be a political force. I think that she's going to try. I think her moment will be in 2028. I think she positions herself as a fantastic vice presidential candidate. And here's the thing, Lou, you are right. If you actually watched and followed politics, you would understand that voting for Gavin Newsom is foolish. 95% of the American population doesn't pay attention to politics. They just don't. They voted in this. When it comes to most of the American population, I actually had to think of the sentence. That's why I was like, most of America thinks their political involvement ended on November 5th. That's it. They don't care anymore. Whatever happens, they voted for it, so it doesn't matter. Gavin Newsom is a smooth talker with a big smile. And there's a lot of moderate women, and I'm sorry to make this, but if you've listened to my show before, you understand that I don't really care. There's a lot of women that could be swayed by smooth talking Gavin Newsom. You don't know anything about California politics. He comes into your town with his slicked back hair and his big smile. He can charm the shoes off of anybody. Plus, he's got political lineage with Pelosi. So it is one of the things people need to understand. Completely incompetent, completely stupid, but he's a good politician, which means he knows how to get elected, like all of them. And when they get elected, they go to Congress. And that is where we get into our next story from the dailymail.com. Man arrested for entering the Capitol with a machete and 3 knives. Machete. He is machete. And he showed up with 3 knives because apparently he really wanted to get the job done. I have one more thing here, too, that I want to talk about as far as the Capitol. And that is this story as well. This happened at 4:40 p.m. U.S. Capitol Police responded to a suspicious vehicle near the Ulysses S. Grant Memorial. I do love X because this dude, it was the General Lee apparently, so everything's fine there. But we do have the inauguration of Trump coming very soon. Right? He was the electors came in and they voted and they gave him the thumbs up. So now we have the inauguration on the 20th. So the Capitol is going to be a little bit more feisty, especially when you have the left who's now talking about mischievous deeds and the fact that they already tried to kill the guy at least twice. So it's not a shock here. A man with a machete was arrested after trying to enter the U.S. Capitol just before Donald Trump's scheduled visit. I'm surprised he thought that he could get by with these pocket knives, and that looks like a box cutter. That rusty old machete. Hey, man, I need it for work. All right. I just have it at work, man. That's all it is. That's a little ridiculous. Trump plans to pay his respects for Carter. Get out of here. For Jimmy Carter, I think that's tomorrow is the funeral, as his body was lying in the rotunda in the complex ahead of his state funeral Thursday. Why does Jimmy Carter, God rest his soul, eternal rest grant unto him, O Lord, and that perpetual light shine upon him, may he rest in peace. Why does he deserve a state funeral? The fact that presidents are honest, and people are talking about, oh, maybe Trump can run for a third term. Can we just either make the POTUS an elected king until they die, or try to actually stick to the term limits and treat them just like a prime minister or anything else? Can we stop giving these people, can we stop deifying these people? A handful of his cabinet picks, including Pete Hegseth, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard, have been doing the rounds in the Senate offices today. Capitol Police confirmed the machete-yielding man, who's also tried to sneak in 3 knives, was arrested around 2 p.m. on Wednesday, just hours before Trump's arrival. President-elect also plans to meet with senators to discuss his cabinet picks and incoming legislative priorities like immigration reform and the implementing tax cuts, not the tax cuts, not the impending tax cuts, but the implementing of the tax cuts. Capitol Police confirmed the man was arrested in a thread on X. They're talking about the platform, not like X. Our officers stopped and arrested a man who tried to get a machete into the Capitol Visitor Center. The first post began. And then they were like, look at this thing we found. It was a rusty old machete with a couple pocket knives and a box cutter. Because apparently he went to Harbor Freight before this. He thought that would be a successful way to get this done. If he went to Harbor Freight and tried to like grab it there. Hey man, I'm going to the White House. What can I grab here that's on sale? You can get this machete, you can get these box cutters, you get this pocket knife for $15. I mean, if you buy from no offense, shout out Harbor Freight. I bought a lot of stuff from Harbor Freight. I like it. But that's pretty much the quality of this machete you're getting there. Anyway, police vehicles are parked outside the Capitol building in Washington, and this is the rotunda where Jimmy Carter is apparently laying in state. During our security screening at the CVC's north doors, our officers spotted a machete in the man's bag, stopped the x-ray machine, arrested the man, and secured the machete. I mean, the worst thing you're going to get from that machete, hold on, I'm trying to find it, from this machete is tetanus, right? You're getting tetanus from this thing. You're not getting like, he's got a rusty knife, stop him. But authorities uncovered more than just a machete. 3 knives were also found in the bag along with the machete. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, machete. Security screenings was temporarily stopped at the north side of the Capitol Visitor Center while we investigated. The man, who was not named, is being arrested for multiple charges of carrying dangerous weapons and buying them at Harbor Freight. The Capitol Police said additional information is to come. The frightening announcement comes just hours before Trump was expected to visit Carter's remains at the Capitol Rotunda. And yes, I think it's more linked to people are getting right. Which is from, it was a machete. I think it was a little rusty. I wouldn't have used it. You wouldn't find one at Mar-a-Lago. It would be okay. It would not be great. If he was going to bring it, at least have MAGA laser in-stitched on it, MAGA, and then pay me. Right? He's just, I don't care. But I honestly believe that in the days that lead up to the inauguration, the next 12 days, you're going to see more of this. I don't want more of this. I don't want more of this to take place. But I do think that this is definitely something we need to be on track for, especially for the powers that be to do some kind of false flaggy issue before the upcoming inauguration, not to prevent it. I don't think they're not going to try and prevent it, but they could put more security. They could put more fences up. They could make it more, whatever you want to call it. They can make it more difficult for people. Building up the case too with each one of these events that happens for the enlargement of the security state. That's always their end goal, is the enlargement of powers, the enlargement of their bills and their powers and what they can do. So I wouldn't be shocked by any of that to see that take place. So yes, a machete was found at the Capitol, but it was a rusty machete. And yeah, I don't know if you really could have done anything with that. I'm sure you could have like hurt people. I'm sure you could have damaged people with it, but I at this point, is that something that would have been found every time? Is it more important and something to note that they found a suspicious vehicle at the Ulysses S. Grant Center, and then a machete was found over here, and all this other kinds of stuff? Maybe. Who knows in that regard? This is RickCast. I am the aforementioned Rick, and I have a one story left for you. And looks like we actually are going to hit the hour mark. I didn't think we were, but I'm talking with you guys, and I appreciate you guys in the chat room on YouTube. You guys are very much joining the good times that we are having in the chat room at YouTube. And looks like Rumble, we're having some fun over there. I see you guys over at Rumble. I see you guys over there. Like and subscribe if you're first time there. I'd love to have you guys part. And of course, hello, people on X, the X machine. Last story, kind of funny. It's kind of funny because it just really it shows how childish our supposed leaders are. Our supposed betters are, the people that are supposed to be better than us. They're just children. They're all children, and here's the problem. They're all nerds. Right? They're all nerds. And the problem is when you have a guy who wasn't a nerd. Trump was never a nerd. But all these other people, Trudeau, this lady, all the presidents and prime ministers and all the other places, they were all debate nerds, and they were all part of like the Model UN and all these other stinking things. So now they think this is their arena. And Trump's like, it's not. It's my arena now, sucker. And so they don't know how to act in response to it. So this is from Reuters.com. Mexico president chides Trump because, of course, anytime Trump said something, it's boisterous and mean. And anytime somebody, speaks back, they go, ooh, a clapback, chiding Trump. No, it's not. Once you watch the video, you're going to realize how embarrassing this is. Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum, just for your own notes, on Wednesday suggested North America, including the United States, could be renamed Mexican America, a historic name used in early maps of the region, in response to President Donald Trump's pledge to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. She had a press conference about this. Here it is.
Nombre por naciones.
You're not going to listen. I don't want you to listen to it. So she got a map out. She had the interpreter and everything. And she says, Gulf. She says, pretty much this is a map of, before the United States existed. And look how it's called Mexican America. And since Trump wants to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which is stupid, by the way, I didn't vote for you to rename it to the Gulf of Mexico. I voted so we could get egg prices down and gas prices down. But she has this speech, which obviously her interns and everybody are going, great job. Well, yeah, I think he's gonna get so mad. And she going, oh yes, look at this. And she tries to do, she's like Putin with that Tucker interview where she talks for 5 minutes about historical precedent. And then she goes, we should rename it American Mexicana. That sounds good. Hey, remember the Alamo, sweetheart. You lost. I mean, we lost the Alamo, but you lost after that. Blame Santa Anna. All right. He gave it all up so he could get away, the little coward. But that's is it? I think we have the oh no, we didn't. There were ones with subtitles. I didn't want it. But you lost. That's it. And I think, was it President Tyler? President Tyler. There was a president during the Mexican-American War where we pretty much won Mexico, and then we went, yeah, we don't want it, and we left. So you can have all the maps you want, but at one point, the U.S. military owned Mexico. We owned it. And then we said, you can have it back. So your little map is cute and your little hissy fit is fine. Just know your place. The reason why Mexico, which has a vast amount of natural resources, beautiful land, access to both coasts, why is it not the superpower that it should be? Why is it not equal to these United States as far as economic influence and power and all of these other things? It's because you got a stupid bunch of government officials. It's because you let communists and socialists infiltrate the government, which the Cristeros tried to stop, but the American government backed the socialists. That's something you'll never, you won't hear, but that's exactly what happened. Okay, I actually was right. Right? It was John Tyler was president and General Zachary Taylor was in command of the army. So they did win. Okay, I got it. Nice. So the U.S. had Mexico. We gave it back to you. You guys have led socialists and communists take over that. The Catholics tried to stop it, and you killed all the Catholics, or you suppressed the Catholics with it. So you are 100%. It is a huge nerd alert, but that is what it is. So it's absolutely hysterical that she's going to try and sit here and lecture Donald Trump. It reminds me of the seminal classic movie, and I wish I had the clip ready to go, Street Fighter. If you remember the actual one with Jean-Claude Van Damme when he was doing all kinds of drugs and it was like his last real big movie. There was Bison, the bad guy, and he had one of the girls, he had captured her, and she gave this big monologue. There was one day you came into my village and you destroyed the village, and I vowed that day to get vengeance on you. And then it's one of the coldest lines in film history, and it's sad that it's in a Street Fighter movie. But the guy who played the male Adams and the Addams Family in both the Addams Family movies, he was the guy he was a fantastic actor. He goes up, he goes, so the most important day of your life, when Bison came to your village, it was the most important day of your life. For me, it was a Tuesday. Look it up. It's absolutely hysterical. And that's pretty much Trump is saying. Every time I mention your silly little country, you get attention and you get, to try and pretend like you run things. It's 4:00 on Wednesday for me. That I don't care that you had a silly little press conference. I don't care that you're going to try and talk about Mexican America or American Mexican. It doesn't bother me because it's not going to happen. But we do need to calm it down on the whole, like, we're going to take Greenland, we're going to take Canada, we're going to take Panama, we're going to take Mexico. That's all 1942 stuff, which was correctly pointed out to me. Let's see if I actually have that map saved. I know I have it saved on my other stupid account that I have on here because I pay too much money to Elon. I do. I give him way too much money. I know I saved it because somebody mentioned it earlier, and I said, "Oh, I'm gonna actually have to say here it is." And in case you guys didn't know, this was mentioned yesterday on our show. Look at this. I can actually look how good I am. I'm so good. Very few like me running the show by themselves, but I do because I am that good. Yeah. So this is the map that everybody was referring to as soon as my computer. I'm doing this on a MacBook Pro, by the way. So this, you can't see it, is not it. That's it. Here it is. A 1942 map of the New World Order. Not the New World Order with Hulk Hogan, but an actual New World Order. The post-war New World map. The map on the bedroom wall of every teenage Blindenberger. I don't know what that is. But this is what they're running, guys. If you notice, Greenland's part of America. If you notice, Canada's part of America. If you notice, even all the way down to Panama, it's part of America. Even Mexico's part of America. Now, I actually don't mind this map because that means the Russians came in and took over Iran and all this kind of stuff, which I'm actually kind of for. I'd be totally fine if the Ruskies wanted to go into like Iran and kind of just blow these people all up. I'd be like, yay, go. But yeah, that's the map that was referenced yesterday when we were talking about this. It's legit, guys. And it seems very funny that Trump comes in and he's like, I want Greenland, I want Canada, I want Mexico, I want all of it. And, you know, MAGA, in its brilliant manner, claps like a bunch of seals and says, oh, yeah, we should totally take Greenland. We should totally take Canada. Even though Canada's 40 million liberals. Bunch of dummies, all y'all. But that's the map that was referred to before. Is it interesting? I'd say it is. I'd say it's absolutely interesting that you have Trump making all this noise about Greenland, all this noise about Canada. I mean, he's going hard into the paint when it comes with Canada. It's got to be the 51st day. We're giving you all these things, blah, 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 blah. Is it really about this map? Is it really about the Arctic Circle, which they've all been fighting over, right? The trade routes within the Arctic Circle, the minerals that exist within the Arctic Circle. You have that. You have the fact that Greenland, some people who are convinced with global warming, with more global warming, you'll have access to all these natural resources that exist on that big pile of ice. That's what Greenland is. It's a big pile of ice. So I don't know why we're freaking out about it, but apparently we are. So we have that, and it's, so is it the New World Order map? Is it in response to, listen, we gotta get more areas like Greenland and Canada, because the Arctic Circle is going to be even more of this. Oh yeah, there's a leading report. If you actually follow this on RickCast on my X account, leading reports X account. A majority of Republicans support a constitutional amendment allowing Trump to run for a third term. Can we just let Trump go? Can we just let him go, please? People are like, oh, we want Trump to run for a third time. No, we don't. If we wanted to, why don't we just make a constitutional amendment making Trump king, and that way Don Jr. can just become king, and then Barron become king, and then we don't have to worry about elections anymore. If we're going to do this thing about having him run a third term, yeah, why not? It's absolutely ridiculous. Do you want an armed, do you want a king, or do you want a constitutional executive office? One or the other. Pick it, because this jumping back and forth nonsense is getting kind of annoying. In case you don't believe me, here is the actual thing here from leadingreport.com. I just, yeah, if Trump becomes Catholic and becomes a Catholic monarch, totally fine with it. I actually wouldn't, half of me wouldn't oppose, off the cuff time. Half of me wouldn't be too opposed to Trump becoming king, because then I wouldn't have to worry about electoral politics ever again. I'll say the quiet part out loud, right? You make Trump king, who would be the next one up? Probably Don, because he's the firstborn. And then you got 3 other male sons. And then when he passes on, since technically Barron is from a different mom, he could be the next one. And by that point, you've got enough grandkids, they would have that as well. And then you wouldn't have to worry about this. You wouldn't have to worry about elections. We wouldn't have to worry about this. So you can light me up in the comment section down below. I really don't mind. But this is kind of like, we do. Mike, that's the thing. We do. We absolutely do. And if, we want to hug the Constitution until the left gets their Obama. And they're like, oh, I wish he could serve forever. Serve. I put those in air quotes. You don't really serve when you have Air Force One, 2 different, multiple different retreat houses, and you live in a house that everybody pays for. And then the fact is, when we were like, oh, you guys want Obama to run forever, and then Trump gets in, we were like, we want Trump to run forever. You know what? Just do it. Just do it at this point, because it's tiresome. I'm tired every 4 years. Keep the House and the Senate the way it is. Keep it. I don't care. They don't do anything anyway. Keep the SCOTUS the way it is and just make him permanent. You don't even have to call him a king. Just permanent POTUS. The POTUS family. They already call him the first family. They already give him titles of nobility, which we were expressly not supposed to do. And people say, well, the president is not a term of nobility. Yes, it is. For goodness sakes, the first lady is called FLOTUS. There's nothing in the U.S. Constitution that talks about the first lady of the United States. It's literally the wife. But we call her FLOTUS, and she gets her own staff, and she has an agenda just to decorate the White House. Just give him the titles of nobility and let him run with it. At this point in my life, I don't even care. Because the amount of pomp and circumstance and nonsense and garbage that we have to deal with, we have 18 months of relative peace right now. Phil Labonte says a bunch of stuff I don't agree with, but he's right on the money on this one. You got 18 months before that Republicans have, before everybody runs to the hills for their own re-elections in 2028 and doing all this other stuff. You got 18 months of peace where people actually focus, and I say peace in quotation marks, where they actually try to run their own things. And that's right, midterms. That's what I'm talking about. 18 months, and then the Republicans in the House, they'll bail out sooner because they got to run their own re-elections and all that stuff. So it is what it is in that regard, and I would be more than happy. I would be more than happy with just a political dynasty. Honestly, I don't even think I would care whoever it is, because this facade of having individuals become, if you're paying $1 billion and Kamala spent $1 billion and Joe Biden spent $1 billion and Obama spent $1 billion and Trump spent millions of dollars to become this representative of the people, you might as well just give him a crown. Or if you don't want to give him a crown, I don't care. Just let him stay. And then it moves into the next family. And when there's nobody who can run it anymore, then you can have an election for somebody else. Reason why I say this at this point, I'm going over by 6 minutes, but might as well, I'm on a roll. Reason I'm saying this is because our supposed representative democracy is an absolute object failure. Our debt is through the roof. Our homeless population is through the roof. Our military bases are all over the place. People can't afford basic things. We care about most other places in the world besides this actual union of states. So whatever. Let Trump be a monarch. I know the left would permanently be angry, but whatever. It's not like Trump's a super... make Trump a permanent monarch and see how conservative he is. I mean, it's going to be actually interesting because he doesn't have to worry about re-election. So it'll be interesting in regards that in that as well. So that's my end of my little rant on that. Yeah, that's one of my hottest takes is you might as well just if you want to make Trump permanent POTUS, just do it. Let's stop playing around like somebody's going to get elected every 2 and 4. It's all the same 5 people. It's all the same bunch of families. So it is. All right, folks, that's it for this episode of RickCast. Once again, real quick, shilling for myself. If you are in the Carolinas, I'd love to see you on February 8th. That is a month from now at the 15th Annual Catholic Men's Conference of the Carolinas. I will be the MC, joined by Enoch, John Frankman, John Edwards, he's Catholic Redneck on Instagram, and the boys from Avoiding Babylon. One day of fellowship, and it's a good time. And I think everybody, if you're in the mid-Atlantic area, me and Anthony, if you're in the mid-Atlantic area, I strongly encourage you to come and hang out with us because it is an absolute good time. and I think it's going to be fun. So definitely go to the website, CatholicMenOfTheCarolinas.org, or, if you want, you can scan that QR code and get it there. So these are the speakers: the bishop, John Franklin, Anthony Robb, John Edwards, myself, and then Enoch, who will be speaking and performing. So it's going to be a great time, and I would really love to see all of you there. And then finally, if you like to read, you can buy my book, The Armed Catholic, The Catholic Case for Guns and Self-Defense, at Amazon.com or TheArmedCatholic.com. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I love every single one of you, and I appreciate you spending time with me. You have so many different options, especially in this day of content. You have so many different options to watch and discuss. Thank you for hanging out with me. I will talk to you all tomorrow. God bless. And as always, free Dexter Taylor.